Okay, I'm going to show you now how to set up MLA paper formatting in Microsoft Word, and also how to format a long quote. I use Word 2011 on a Macintosh. You might use some other version of Word, and certainly the version of Word that's available on campus is a different version. So exactly where you find these commands will vary, and you'll have to look for them. One of the many things I hate about Microsoft is that they update their software every time the wind blows, and frankly, there hasn't been a really good version of Microsoft Word since Word 6, which was in, 1996, 1997. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so you open a document in Microsoft Word, and it should look something similar to this. There are a couple of things that you want to do first. The first thing you want to do is find on your version of Word where you can select to view the ruler. What that will give you is a ruler across the top and along the side. The ruler across the top is very important for formatting. Yes, you can do formatting using tab keys, but to tell you the truth, especially when you go to format bibliography entries, which in MLA, those would be works cited entries. The formatting gets really tricky if you use tab keys, and especially if you go in and you revise it. It can screw everything up. If you learn to use the ruler instead, then you don't have to worry about those problems. Okay? So I always recommend that you use the ruler. Okay, so you have your ruler open. The next thing you want to do is you have to change the font, because MLA style dictates that you use Times New Roman font. And if you just start typing Times and then hit the space key, you should come up with Times New Roman. If it just says Times, that's fine. It's the same font. Another thing that MLA dictates is that it's in 12-point type. So you have to go to the box where the type size is listed, or font size. Click the drop-down menu and select 12. Now, the next thing you have to do is you have to make sure that your entire document is double-spaced. And the best way to do that is to use the icons on the Home tab. And you want to go to this center section where it says Paragraph. And depending on which version of Word you're using, usually on the second row, a little right to center, you will see an icon that has a bunch of even lines and has a blue arrow pointing up and a blue arrow pointing down on the left side. Then on the right side, there's the black arrow that gives you the drop-down menu. And all you need to do is select 2. The next thing that you have to do is to insert a running head in your paper. In MLA, your running head appears in the upper right corner, and it is the page number and your last name. Now, depending on the version of Word that you're using, you will need to find exactly where this command is. In the version I use, it's on Document Elements. And what you want to look for is page number, not header, Because one of the wonderful so-called helpful things that Microsoft Word has done is it sets everything up for business. And that doesn't work for academics. And if you go to header, what you'll get no matter what you do is a page number that has some kind of a colored box around it. And you don't want that for academic papers. Instead, you go to page number and you click on it. Now, in the version of Word that's available on campus, you will get a drop-down menu, and what you want to choose is plain number 3. And what that will do is that will put a page number in the upper right corner of your paper. In the version of Word that I have, I get to select the position, which is the top of the page, and the alignment, which is right, which is what I want. You click OK. Pardon me. That will put your page number up there. But that's not all you want. So you want to click in front of that page number until you get a little box of lines around it. And there you type your last name. And I always use the name I'm a good student in sample papers and so forth, because it is just a fake name for a student as opposed to using mine. Okay. Once you have that done, you click in the body of your paper and your header will close. Now, what this will do is it will go ahead and it will put your last name and your page number above the top margin of your paper on every page. It's very important that you do it that way and that you don't just type it in up there, because what will happen is if you just type it in up there, then when you go to revise your paper, the page number and your last name will actually move. And it can move down several lines, so that what happens is you have several lines of text on your paper, and then you have your last name and page number, and you don't want that. So learn to do it the correct way and learn to use the formatting in Microsoft Word. Not only will it help you throughout college, but employers are going to expect college graduates to know the basics of using Microsoft Word. Now, there are a couple of other things that I want to point out to you that are on my Document Elements menu. They would be elsewhere on yours. But they are things you want to ignore, avoid, and not use. And that's anything that says citations or references or offers to put together a bibliography. Do not use them. Ever. They're wrong. They're just flat out wrong. The citations won't turn out, the citations won't turn out correctly, and your bibliography, whether it's APA, MLA, Chicago Manual of Style, or whatever, won't be right. Microsoft Word doesn't know anything about putting together bibliographies, and it knows very, very, very little about grammar. The spell check is okay, but you can't depend on it completely, because it will read form as a correct word, even if what you mean is from. Okay, so now that I've told you what to ignore and what to avoid, let's go back to our home page. And now, making sure that you're in Times New Roman 12 point, you go ahead and MLA style dictates that the first thing you type in is your first and last name, which for our fake paper would be I'm a good student. Then you hit the return key one time and it will automatically double space. Do not double space by hitting the return key at the end of every line. It'll screw things up when you go to revise, and frankly, as you can see, when I grade papers or read papers, I get these little paragraph marks. Now, those won't print out on an actual paper. And I don't care whether you use them or not. Personally, I find them because they help me make sure that, for example, I haven't skipped extra spaces between sentences or anything like that. They wouldn't print out on a paper. They're just formatting guides. But if you double space your entire paper by just hitting the return key at the end of the sentence, I'll see these little paragraph signs at the end of every line. And since I'm telling you not to do it that way, oh yeah, I'll take points off for that. Okay. The next thing that you put is the professor's name, which would be, for our class, Professor Deborah Oakey. Now, it's not that I really care that you spell my name right, but I know from having been a journalist and from having worked with academics that people do get upset when you misspell their names. And considering that my name appears on the syllabus, it's on the home page for my email, it appears any number of places, in order to maintain credibility with audience, make sure you spell my name right. Then hit the return key one more time, and the next thing you do is you put in the class, which is English 100, and then you put a dot, and then you put your section number. Let's, for example, say that you are in section 1005. Then you hit the return key again, and you put in the date. Now, dates in the name block, and that's what this is called, the name block, in MLA style are reversed. The day comes before the month, and the month is abbreviated. So let's say that you are writing your paper on the 15th of February. Okay? You would put 15 FEB period, and let's say the year is 2015. That is what MLA requires in the name block. Now for my class, I want you to add an extra line to this name block, even though it is not technically MLA style. I want you to hit the return key again and type audience and a colon, and then put students and professors in, and then whatever discipline you're addressing. Let's say political science. By the way, the only disciplines that are capitalized are the disciplines that are named after proper nouns. Generally, those are languages. English, French, Spanish, German, Italian, those are capitalized. Political science, psychology, biology, computer science, agriculture, nursing, dental hygiene, anything like that, that's not capitalized. Now, no, I'm not going to take off in your paper if you do capitalize it, but some profs might. So make sure that you know that. Then you hit the return key again. And again, you have to look for the command depending on which version of Word you're using. But in most of the newer versions, there is a section that's titled Paragraph on the Home tab. And on the second row on the left, you see these little icons that have lines that are either even or they go in and out, depending on which icon you're looking at. You want to click the icon that has the lines that go in and out on both sides, and when you point to it, it should say Center Text. And then you type the name of your paper. And let's say you're writing a paper on the Reagan presidency, which you wouldn't for your first paper, but you might for your second paper. Now, there's something to notice about the title. You don't underline it. You don't make it a larger font. You don't make it bold. You don't italicize it. You don't put it in quotation marks. You don't put dancing clowns or flashing lights or anything else about it. You just center it and type it. Then you hit the return key one time. You don't skip extra spaces. And you go back up to probably, depending on the version of Word you're using, this paragraph section. And you click on the icon on the far left so that you see how all of the lines on the left are all lined up, but it goes in and out on the right. That's called jagged right, and that's what you want to use. Do not use this one where all of the lines are equal on both sides. That's called justified right or justified text, and you don't want that. Because what that does is it spaces everything out so that the lines are even on both sides. And if you have a professor that gives you a page length, justified right will take up space and add space to a paper, and that's not the point. The point is to develop the paper well. Okay? So you want the one that has all of the lines even on the left side, and then the lines on the right all go in and out. And when you point to it, it says align text left. So you click on that. Okay. Now, you want to indent each paragraph by 1/2 inch. And yes, you can do that using the tab key, but that's not the best way to do it because, as I said, when you go to do the bibliography, which would be the works cited page in MLA, that can screw things up for you. So this is what you do instead. You see on the ruler, there are 2 arrows. There's one pointed up that's actually cut in half, and there's one pointing down. You point to the one that is pointing down, and something should come up that says first line indent. And you drag that to the 1/2 inch line, or right about there. Okay, I'm not going to count off if it's off by a hair. Okay, and now you're ready to begin typing your paragraphs. And I just type gobbledygook because I don't want to waste your time trying to think of things to put in the paper. And when you come to the end of a line, it will automatically double space for it. And the only time you hit the return key is when you reach the end of a paragraph. You hit the return key so that it knows to indent the next line. And then you just type, and you don't hit the return key again until you reach the end of the next paragraph, and that's where you hit the return key. Now, there should not be extra lines between paragraphs. Microsoft Word sometimes, if it's not set up not to, it will sometimes automatically insert a line. You don't want that. So this is what you have to do to fix that. And again, you're going to have to look for the command depending on which version of Word you're using. On mine, it's under the Format drop-down menu, and it's under Paragraph. And wherever you find it, you should get a dialog box that looks roughly like this. And you see here where it says don't add space between paragraphs of the same style. You want to click that. Okay. Now, Some computers on the college are already set up that way, and some aren't. And no, again, I'm not going to take off a whole lot for doing that. I will take off because I told you not to. So, and if you need help fixing that, you can always go to either one of the computer labs on any of the campuses, or you can go to the Writing Center and they can help you. And again, that's a Writing Center on any one of the campuses. Okay. Now, another thing about MLA style, and I will actually type a sentence or two here simply to demonstrate it. After the period between sentences, there's only one space, not two. Okay, just one space between sentences. And yes, I'll know, because I don't grade the papers at 100%. I can't see that well. When I grade your papers, I can get up to 200% of actual size. And I can tell by looking, see how there's a teeny tiny itty bitty dot right there? That tells me you skipped one space. If you skip two, there are two dots. And no, I'm not going to take off much for that, but since I'm telling you not to do it and showing you not to do it, yeah, I might take off a little bit for it. And there are other professors who definitely will. Okay, so let's say that you're not writing about online campuses, but you're writing about the Reagan presidency. Or no, let's say that you're writing about the Declaration of Independence. Okay. Or that you're writing about the Reagan presidency and you mention the Declaration of Independence. And you want to use a long quote from the Declaration of Independence. This is what you would do. Let's see, how can I introduce this? Okay, so we have a little introduction in our paragraph, and now we're going to introduce our direct quote. We're going to say, the Declaration of Independence states, and have a colon. Okay, now, as I said in the presentation on summary, paraphrase, and quote, long quotes are formatted differently, and a long quote is anything that is 4 or more typed lines in MLA. And the way it's formatted is that the entire quote is indented ½ inch and there aren't any quotation marks. And this is how you do this. And this is another reason that it's better to use the ruler than to use the tab key. You go up to the ruler and you point to the bottom half of the arrow that says left indent. And you hold down the shift key and you drag it so that it lines up with the upper arrow that you already have set at ½ inch. Now, I have already typed out and copied the quote that I want to use so that you don't have to watch me type and waste your time. Okay. Just to make it a little bit clearer what's going on. I didn't know that my fake paper would end exactly there. I'm going to add a few more lines of gobbledygook here. There's no reason to type it out. I can just copy it and paste it. So that it's all on the same page, because that will demonstrate what we need better. Ah, there we go. Okay, so we have our paragraph leading into it. The paragraph ends with the signal phrase that identifies the source. The Declaration of Independence states. Here is our entire quote. Okay. Now, there are some things to notice about direct quotes. We don't change any of the wording, even though the grammar in this piece really isn't correct. Okay. That's why we're getting these little squiggly lines. And actually, in the version that I looked at, and Microsoft Word automatically corrected this for me, and you have to be very careful with Microsoft Word. It will correct things that it's not supposed to correct, and in direct quotes, that could be a problem. In the version I read, life, liberty, and happiness, but not pursuit of, were capitalized. Now, we know from having studied capitalization that in modern English, those are not capitalized. But they're capitalized in the original source, and you don't change something from the original source just to make it grammatically correct, no matter what Microsoft Word does. Okay, so you finish your quote. And again, I'm not going to take off for this, and let me blow this up to 200 so you can see what I'm talking about. To every rule, there is an exception. And as we've already discussed, and as you're going to work with more next week when you work with MLA and MLA documentation and in-text citations, generally speaking, the period comes after the citation. But in a long quote, the period actually comes before the citation. Now, the reason we have only a page number here instead of the name of the source is because we have identified the source in the signal phrase. We'll talk about that more in-depth next week, or you will view some videos, but we'll talk about that more in depth next week when you learn MLA. So when you're done with your direct quote, you hit the return key, again, just one time. You hold down the shift key, you go up to your ruler, point to the bottom half of that arrow where it says hanging indent, and drag that back to 0. And then what will happen, and you don't skip any lines after your long quote. Then what will happen is that when you start typing your paragraphs, only the first line will be indented. Okay, now, I am going to show you how to format your works cited page for an MLA next week. But I do want to show you this. The works cited page has to start on a new page. You don't reach the new page by hitting the return key several times, because again, that could change if you go through and revise your paper. What you do is you will have to look for the command, but you find the command for insert page break. And what you will get is this blue line, and it will say page break, and then your cursor will start on a new page. And that's where you want to start your works cited page. Okay, I hope this video helped you understand how to set up your paper in MLA style, because even the first draft that is due this week should be set up in MLA style. And I hope it also helped to clarify how to format long quotes. You can see why it was impossible to do that in a PowerPoint, because PowerPoints don't let you double space anything. Okay, and remember, since I have a piece of paper here, if you have any questions about any of this or need to contact me about anything at all, you email me at deborah.okey. Good old Microsoft Word just went ahead and changed that for me. At csn.edu. And of course, you know, you have to email me from an account other than Canvas, right? Okay, hope this helps you. Do get in touch with me if you have any questions. I do want even your first draft of your paper set up in MLA page format. I won't necessarily take off if you don't do it exactly right, but since you have been taught how to do it, and I expect your papers to demonstrate everything that you have been taught so far, even though this is just a rough draft, I would like to see it in MLA page formatting, if you can. Okay, thanks a lot, and we will talk again very soon.